The 8 dirtiest countries in the world, 2025. Look, we all know the world can be a filthy place, but some countries are grappling with a whole different level of filth. We're talking about places where hazardous air pollution is so bad just stepping outside feels like taking a drag from an exhaust pipe. Places where the concept of waste management seems to involve just kind of leaving it all out on the street. So buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into the 8 dirtiest countries in the world. Stay tuned, because frankly you won't believe what we've dug up. Oh, and stick around to the end to find out which unfortunate nation takes the top spot on this deeply unpleasant list. Alright, let's kick things off with a country that might surprise you. Country name. This place is a bit of an enigma, often flying under the radar when it comes to global attention. But today, we're shining a spotlight on it for a very specific reason. It's like that friend of a friend you vaguely remember meeting at a party once. You know, the one who seemed nice enough but didn't leave a lasting impression. Well, country name is about to make an impression, and not necessarily a good one. Well, let me tell you what country name is doing. It's drowning in a sea of its own garbage. Imagine walking down the street and seeing piles of trash taller than you. It's a daily reality for the people living here. We're talking plastic bottles, discarded electronics, you name it. They've got it piled high. The waste management system is struggling to keep up, and it's creating an environmental crisis of epic proportions. According to the reputable source report, country name has an air quality index of number, which is roughly the equivalent of breathing in the exhaust fumes of humorous comparison. The air is so thick with pollutants that it's like living in a perpetual haze. The water supply is riddled with industrial waste and sewage, making a refreshing dip in the local river about as appealing as swimming in a toilet bowl at a truck stop. It's a dire situation that affects both the environment and public health. Every country has its problems, right? But they've got a long, smelly road ahead of them if they want to clean up their act. The challenges are immense, but with the right policies and public awareness, there's hope for a cleaner future. Let's keep an eye on country name and see how they tackle this monumental task. Next up, we're heading over to country name. A country that's about as good at waste management as a toddler is at using a sippy cup. Seriously, it's like they've never even heard of a recycling bin. One of the biggest culprits here is key factor contributing to pollution. The air quality in country name's major cities is enough to make your eyes water, and not in a good nostalgic movie kind of way. And the water? Well, let's just say you wouldn't want to drink it, swim in it, or even use it to water your plastic plants. It's an adventure, that's for sure. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to enter the land of industrial chaos and urban sprawl. Country name. This is a country where progress and pollution go hand in hand. Country name is a classic example of what happens when a nation prioritizes economic growth over environmental protection. Factories pump out toxic fumes with the enthusiasm of a teenager discovering energy drinks for the first time. Rivers run thick with industrial waste, resembling something you'd find bubbling away in a witch's cauldron. And the air? Let's just say that breathing in country name's major cities feels like smoking a pack of cigarettes through a straw. Progress. Chapter 4. A country thirsty for clean water. Country name at number 5. Remember that feeling when you wake up in the middle of the night, parched, and stumble to the kitchen for a glass of water? The relief you feel as the cool liquid quenches your thirst is almost indescribable. It's a simple pleasure, one that many of us take for granted every single day. Now imagine that feeling, but instead of a refreshing glass of H2O, you're faced with a murky, foul-smelling concoction. The water is so dirty that you can't even see through it, and the smell is enough to make you gag. This isn't just an occasional inconvenience, it's a daily reality for millions. That's the reality for millions of people in country name, a country where access to clean water is about as rare as finding a politician who actually keeps their promises. Children, the elderly, and the most vulnerable are often the ones who suffer the most, forced to drink and use water that can make them seriously ill. Country name is facing a perfect storm of water woes. The combination of a growing population, climate change, and poor infrastructure has created a crisis of epic proportions. People have to line up for hours just to get a few liters of water, and even then, it's often not safe to drink. Decades of industrial pollution have turned their rivers into toxic soups, filled with chemicals and waste that are harmful to both humans and wildlife. Factories and industries continue to dump their waste into these rivers, making the situation even worse. while rapid urbanization has put a strain on already scarce resources. Cities are expanding at an unprecedented rate, and the existing water supply systems simply can't keep up. This has led to widespread water shortages and has made clean water a luxury that only a few can afford. And if that wasn't enough, the lack of proper sanitation facilities means that what little water they do have is often contaminated with sewage. Open drains and poorly managed waste systems allow harmful bacteria and viruses to seep into the water supply, posing serious health risks. So the next time you turn on the tap and take a sip of that clean, delicious water, spare a thought for the people of country name. They are in desperate need of solutions, and it's up to the global community to help them find a way out of this crisis. Clean water is not just a necessity, it's a basic human right. Chapter 5. Government Inaction Plagues. Country name at number 4. Country name. A land where the government's approach to pollution and sanitation can best be described as benign neglect. The citizens have taken to the streets, holding signs and chanting slogans desperate for change, yet their cries seem to fall on deaf ears. It's like they're watching their country slowly crumble under the weight of its own filth, and their response is a shrug and a muttered, "Hey, it's probably fine." The streets are filled with garbage, and the air is thick with pollutants, making daily life a struggle for the average citizen. Now, I'm not saying that the government of country name is twiddling their thumbs while their citizens cough their way through smog-filled streets and wade through rivers of industrial sludge, but the reality is, the measures they have taken are far from adequate. They've actually implemented some policies, or at least, they've made announcements. These policies, however, often lack the necessary enforcement and funding to make a real impact. Mostly symbolic gestures that look good on paper but do little to address the root causes of the problem. Empty promises and hollow commitments are the order of the day. Meanwhile, corruption festers like a forgotten Tupperware container of leftovers in the back of your fridge. Funds meant for environmental projects often disappear, lining the pockets of corrupt officials instead. So, the next time you hear a politician talk about the importance of environmental protection, remember country name. Remember the smog, the polluted rivers, and the cries of the people. And ask yourself, is it all just talk, or is there real action behind those words? Chapter 6. Environmental Disasters Ravage. Country name at number 3. Country name. It's a country that's been dealt a rough hand, environmentally speaking, facing numerous challenges. We're talking devastating oil spills that turn their once pristine coastlines into black, sticky messes. We're talking deforestation on a scale that would make even the Lorax shed a tear, a truly heartbreaking sight. And of course, we can't forget about the ever-present threat of climate change, which is making extreme weather events like floods and droughts more frequent and intense. And yet, through it all, the resilient people of country name persevere, trying to rebuild their lives and their environment, one painstaking step at a time. Chapter 7. Poverty and pollution collide in country name at number 2. We've arrived at the heartbreaking reality of country name. A country where poverty and pollution are locked in a vicious cycle. Imagine this. You're struggling to put food on the table, living in a slum where the air is thick with the stench of garbage and sewage. Your only concern is survival, not whether or not you're properly disposing of your plastic water bottle. Environmental protection? That's a luxury you simply can't afford. And so, the cycle continues. Poverty leads to environmental degradation, which in turn perpetuates poverty. Systemic issues like lack of government investment in sanitation infrastructure, inadequate waste management systems, and rampant industrial pollution all contribute to the problem. The situation in country name is a stark reminder that environmental justice and social justice are inextricably linked. Chapter 8. And the dirtiest country in the world is country name. Well, folks, we've reached the bottom of the barrel, the peak of the pollution pyramid, the champion of environmental catastrophe. It's with a heavy heart and a respirator mask that I announce the unfortunate winner of our Dirtiest Country competition, country name. Now I know what you're thinking. It couldn't be that bad, could it? Oh, it can. Country name is a country where the air is so thick with smog you can practically taste the lead, where rivers flow with a rainbow of industrial runoff that would make even a seasoned chemist reach for the hazmat suit, and where the concept of waste management seems to involve just sort of leaving it all in a big smelly pile. The situation in country name is dire, but it's not hopeless. Outro, a call to action, cleaning up our act. Well, there you have it, folks. The 8 dirtiest countries in the world, each facing its own unique set of environmental challenges. It's enough to make you want to crawl into a hazmat suit and never come out, isn't it? But before you do, remember this. The fight for a cleaner, healthier planet is one we all share, whether it's reducing our own environmental footprint, supporting organizations working on the front lines of pollution and sanitation, or simply spreading awareness about these critical issues. Every little bit helps. So, let's get to work, shall we? Because the only thing dirtier than the state of our planet is the thought of doing nothing at all.